Hello and welcome back. I'm so glad you came back for session number 2 and that you're just full of hope and knowing that recovery is just around the corner for you. So, your homework from last time under session 1 was to set a goal. So, hopefully, you set it high. And I know you can get to a great place that you never imagined before in life. And just stay on track with that and know that you're going to get there. Also, the left brain deep breathing you've been practicing. So, the skill that you're going to learn today is going to build on that, and it's going to be so much more effective, so much more powerful, and can really help you manage a lot of the symptoms that we talked about last week. Also, you're supposed to tell 3 people to pray for you, to think about you, let them know you're dealing with anxiety. So part of that is it's kind of twofold. First of all, there's kind of some freedom in releasing that information and letting people know I don't need to hide this anymore. I'm dealing with it, and I'm going to make it through it. But also, when I do groups and we talk about these conversations that people had, 9 times out of 10, somebody in those conversations will say something along the lines of, "Oh, you're dealing with anxiety, you're dealing with depression. Like, I'm dealing with that too. I'm going through that. Like, whatever you learn, let me know. I'd be really interested in as well." Because again, right now, 40% of Americans are dealing with a lot of this stuff. And honestly, like, share the links, share the workbook with them. My desire to create this program was just to provide a free way for people to get help. It's not to really replace one-on-one sessions. My guess is, like, long term, I walk people through these one-on-one and get real specific and real direct with what they're dealing with and help them individually. So you can't really replace that, but the skills that you're going to learn in this program and things that you're going to be able to do is going to help you tremendously. But with that, I'd like to encourage you to join a Facebook group. Just if you go to Facebook, type in Freedom from Anxiety Program, and I don't know how many things will pop up, but look for our logo and just join that. And that's a great place where I'll keep watching over that group. If you have questions, you can message me. If you have things that you want to get from other people going through the program and talk about their experiences, that would be a great place to do that. But with that, we're going to move right into session 2. And again, we'll start with the new skill, which it's still deep breathing, but it's called right brain deep breathing. So left brain is kind of where your thinking, math skills, state capitals, things that you learn comes from. Right brain is more like your emotional part. And so we're going to tie some imagination and some emotions into the deep breathing, which I think is going to help you tremendously. So check this out.
Hello again. Last time we talked about deep breathing from the left brain. Now we're going to talk about it from the right brain, where right brain is more like where your imagination comes from. And so what we're going to do is we're going to implement some of your imagination into the deep breathing. And this is great, not just for anxiety, but even physical issues of pain and different things. And so what I want you to do is, we'll just use anxiety since it could be depression or whatever the negative feeling is, but we'll just go with anxiety. So when you're doing the deep breathing, what I want you to try is imagine that the anxiety is inside of your body, and you're going to make that anxiety your least favorite color. All right, so maybe you hate black, maybe you hate orange, whatever it may be. Just see it all through your body in that ugly, nasty color. All right, and then when you inhale, you're still going to do the 5 inhale, 10 exhale. When you inhale, in your imagination, start down at the tips of your toes and just see all that nasty, ugly color, that anxiety or whatever that negative emotion is, as you're breathing in, going from the tips of your toes all the way up into your head. And then when you exhale, see that ugly, nasty color, the negative emotion, just coming out with your exhale and getting out of your body. All right, and then when you look back inside your body after your exhale, you should notice there's a lot less of that ugly, nasty color and that feeling and symptoms associated with the anxiety, depression, whatever it may be. So do it again. Go from tips of your toes, slowly breathe in for the 5 seconds, whatever that ugly, nasty color is still left, exhale out. If you still notice, hey, I still got some more of this junk inside of me, again, imagine down at the tips of your toes, bring it all up into your head on the exhale. Exhale it all out. And then finally, once you notice that ugly, nasty color is gone, you're going to replace it with your favorite color. And something special to you that favorite color may represent. So it might be God's peace. It could be just a sense of calm. It could be joy, it could be happiness, whatever emotion you feel like, hey, I need this. And, so just take a few breaths in. And as you take those breaths in, get that ugly, nasty color that used to be inside you. And in your imagination, replace it with your favorite color and something that represents something that you really feel like you need. Okay, great. Hope this works for you, and keep trying it throughout the week, and we'll introduce some new stuff next week.
Well, hopefully you were able to find that skill to be very useful. And as you practice it over the next week, this tends to be people's kind of like number one skill, I would say, that when they start to feel that anxiety coming in, that they picture it in their body, they inhale it up, they breathe it out, and it just seems to work wonders. And that last deep breath to represent anything you want, again, can just work amazingly for you. And the more you practice it, and you want to practice this when you're feeling good. I always say, if somebody pointed a gun at me, I'm going to react way differently than a cop who is always practicing that in non-violent situations and training and those sort of things. So when the crisis comes, they have all that practice to fall back on. So you don't just do these breathing things and these skills when you feel really, really bad. You want to do them when you feel good. So when you do feel bad, your body has a lot to fall back on and will respond in a much, much more positive way. So with that, this week, we're focusing on panic attacks. Again, under the skill, if you want to write in some things that you learned from the video, with the colors, with the inhale, the exhale, what you're picturing, feel free to do that at any time. But with the panic attacks, that is a huge issue. If you've dealt with panic attacks, if you've ever had a panic attack, they are just horrible. And you do everything you can to try and avoid them from happening. And sometimes it feels like the more you try and avoid them, the worse they are, the more they come. And so we're going to talk about that today, and the skills that you're going to learn from all the research that's out there. I remember a guy in one of my groups that was having multiple panic attacks a day, to the point where he had to quit his job, and basically was very desperate that he wasn't able to provide for his family, wasn't able to really be there and go and watch the kids in their sports and that kind of stuff. And so anyways, after this panic attack group that we had done, he never had another panic attack again. So the moment that he left that group, that was it. And a lot of people that happens for, I would say probably more than the majority, is people will say, hey, let's say they have 3 panic attacks a week. The next week they would come back and say, I only had 1 this week, and it wasn't as bad, and it didn't last as long. And as the week goes on, by the end, pretty much, I can't remember anybody that was still dealing with these panic attacks by the end. And you're going to get there as well. But let's look at these skills. So if you open the notebook to page 8, so point number 1 is you cause panic attacks. So that doesn't sound all that appealing, but it's actually really, really good news, because you know what? If you cause panic attacks, that means that you have the ability to stop them. All right, if they're totally out of your control and you had nothing to do with it, there'd be really absolutely nothing you could do to help yourself or to control these. So the second one there, panic attacks may feel like they are completely out of nowhere, but changes start 50 plus minutes before. So when I used to deal with panic attacks, I would have swore up and down, they would just come from nowhere. Like I'd be feeling pretty okay, and then just the next thing I know, like I'm totally dizzy and my heart's racing. I think I'm having a heart attack and short of breath and all those things, and it felt like it came out of the blue. But they did a research study on people with panic disorder that would have panic attacks, and they hooked them up to biofeedback machines. So it's measuring their heart rate, their oxygen level, their blood pressure, did different things in their body, and they had a little button. So when a panic attack would start, they would hit the button. And when they collected all their research, they found on average it was like 56 minutes before a panic attack, their body started to change. So, their blood pressure was going up a little bit, their heart rate was increasing, their oxygen level was decreasing. And it was these very small changes that, the people dealing with these probably didn't notice until they went over the cliff and the panic attack hit hard. But there were signs and symptoms there that led up to it. So even though if you've had these panic attacks, sometimes you might be in the middle of a work meeting, might even be sitting on your couch watching TV, and one just seems to come on. Even though you got that surge of change, little changes were happening along the way. So it's internal stressors that'll cause panic attacks. And the body chemicals, as we talked about last time, just like riding a roller coaster. So if you scanned your brain in the middle of a panic attack, scanned your brain riding the roller coaster, it's going to look the same. You're just interpreting it differently because you want that to happen on a roller coaster, but not so much when you're, sitting at the dinner table or sitting in a restaurant somewhere. Right? So number 2 there, external stressors will cause a fork in the road. So it's one of those things, when stress, and, we know we live in a sinful, fallen world that, one of the great things about free will is we're not robots and we can make choices. But, one of the negative parts of, God creating us with free will is, sometimes people can make bad choices, and that creates stress and havoc and chaos in our world. But these stressors will cause a fork in the road. So we all face those stressors. But what we do with those stressors is going to be vital into, whether they're controlled or whether they lead into these panic attacks. So you can see kind of some steps there. Number 1, we have the stressful life event. So something stressful happens, and we get this externally generated anxiety. So, all of us face a certain amount of stress, a certain amount of anxiety, and that's normal. Again, living in a sinful, fallen world. Then we get the chemical releases, and so our body starts to change, and we start to feel some of the symptoms that we talked about last week. And with those body symptoms, what we do next is kind of the fork in the road. So you start to feel dizzy, you start to feel a little headache, you start to feel a little chest pain, those sort of things. And it's at that point, there's 2 different directions we can go. All right, so imagine yourself, or imagine a woman, she's standing in the kitchen making dinner, she looks at the clock, and it's 5:45. Her husband said, hey, I'll be home at 5:30, and he never called. And so she's a little miffed, a little upset that, what in the world, why didn't he call, text me to let me know he's going to be a little late? And then that what if thinking starts to creep in. What if he can't call me? What if he's been in an accident and he's laying in a ditch along the road now, and next thing you know, she's imagining EMT and the fire station being there, trying to revive her husband, and he's not going to survive. And now she's thinking, how am I going to survive with the kids without my husband? And, so it's gone from being 15 minutes late and a little miffed within probably 2 minutes to, he's dead and buried, and how am I going to survive? And I guarantee a lot of you listening to this can really relate to what I just said, and you find yourself. So that's kind of the bad fork in the road, right? You start to feel this little anxiety, this little tension, and you go down a really, really bad path. But what we're going to do is talk about what's a good path. So if you go down that good path, how do you prevent these panic attacks from happening? So one side note there, our best weapon is self-talk. And the messages that we tell ourselves, the things that we feed into our brains and into our minds are going to be a huge key and a huge piece in all this. And so next session, that's going to be our whole focus. And next session will probably be our most important session of the entire program. And the skills that we learn next time will carry on throughout the whole program. So that's coming. But just know, as we talk about these panic attacks, those messages as we go forward and down the road are going to be a key. But just a little side note under point number 3 there. First of all, nobody ever died from a panic attack. So I've worked in large churches as a pastor. I've done family ministries, I've done counseling, and with being in large churches, there's a lot of funerals. So I've done funerals, I've attended a lot of funerals, and I've, as a pastor, has never stood up in front of a group of people, and I've never had to say, this poor Harry, his last panic attack just did him in. So that's why we're here at this funeral, because he couldn't control these panic attacks, and that this last one was it for Harry. Never had to say that. I'm sure in the history of the world, no minister, no doctor has ever said, this person died because of a panic attack. And it's not going to happen for you either. The second thing, they will go away 100% of the time. So all the people I've worked with, and mostly always being anxiety and depression people, and dozens of people who have dealt with panic, nobody's ever said, you know what, Mike, I started a panic attack like 6 months ago, and it hasn't gone away yet. It always goes away. So if you've had 6 panic attacks in your life, you've had 6 that's gone away. If you've had 6,000 panic attacks in your life, you've had 6,000 that have gone away. So if 6,001 comes, it's going to go away. If you're at the 6 and number 7 comes, just like the other 6, they're going to go away. So 2 things always to remember when you think about these panic attacks, or if you feel like one could possibly come on. Number 1, and this goes into the self-talk a little bit. Number 1, no, you're not going to die. This thing is not going to kill you. And number 2, it's going to go away. The average amount of time panic attack lasts is 8 to 12 minutes. Now, the after effects from all those increased chemicals and chemical changes, so you may drag the rest of the day and not feel all that great, for a couple hours afterwards while your body readjusts. But the actual panic attack is usually fairly short, and it's just that surge of chemicals. And again, it's not going to kill you, and it's going to go away. So millions of people have dealt with panic. And panic, if you're interested, releases adrenaline, sodium lactate, and cortisol. And again, all those chemicals, your body's going to be able to adapt and readjust and make yourself feel better. So you can see some of the common symptoms of a panic attack. So I'm sure as you look at that list, if you've dealt with panic, you can definitely relate to those things. But number 4 is going to be our key. So number 4 is you can learn the 6 steps to never have a panic attack again. And I kind of adjusted these around a little bit, so it's kind of like the A, B, C, D, E, F words. But step number 1 is to accept. And that goes back to the 2 things that I just told you, that you're not going to die and it's going to go away. So when you start to feel those feelings, instead of like doing everything humanly possible to fight them off, that you're basically just going to say, I'm not going to die. I'm going to get through this, and it's not that big of a deal. And here's really the key. Here's how a panic attack works. So if you've ever seen those Chinese finger traps, and I usually have one, it's at my office at the college, and didn't have any for this session, but I'm sure those of you who've seen the little cardboard tubes, you stick your 2 fingers in, and the harder that you pull your fingers apart, the tighter that Chinese finger trap or that tube gets on your finger, and you can't get your fingers out unless you just relax and slide one finger out, slide the other finger out. So the way panic attack works, and the way really anxiety works, is when the anxiety comes and when those chemicals come, it's like your fingers are in that trap. And the more you fight it, and the more you pull, and the more you try and get yourself out of that, the worse it's going to be. The stronger the anxiety is going to get, the worse you're going to feel, and it's going to allow the panic attack to come. Same thing with a bee. You got a bee buzzing around you. The worst thing you can do is start to swat at it, because that can anger the bee and make it so much more likely that you're going to get stung. Where a bee comes around you, if you just hold still, let it buzz around for maybe 15, 20 seconds, 99% of the time, it's just going to fly away and you're going to be fine. So this is going to be the same thing with the panic symptoms. When you start to feel them and you get this surge of chemicals, the surge of adrenaline and all those things coming on, again, back of your mind, not going to kill me. It's going to go away. And you really just accept it. And I like to use the word float. So you can see that's going to be the last word down there, but you're just going to float with these things. So again, accept it. You're going to breathe. So if a lot of times people will start to hyperventilate a little bit, or like breathing gets shallow. So I mean, you don't even have to use your deep breaths. Just remember, just this isn't a big deal. I'm not going to swat at the bee. I'm not going to try and pull myself out of the trap. I'm just going to get myself through this. So stay calm. So you're accepting, you're breathing, you're staying calm. Again, not going to kill you. It's going to go away. If you want to distract yourself. So I remember a girl I used to work with, little girl that was also a basketball player, and I coached basketball. So she was going in the next quarter, and she was really nervous, and I was helping her with a lot of these skills. So I told her, I want you to go sit on the bench, add up all the jersey numbers on our team out there, and add up all the jersey numbers on their team out there, and let me know like who has a higher number. So again, she knew, just float with these symptoms. I don't have to feed into them. I don't need to swat at them. I gave her something to distract. So she went out there and added up all those jersey numbers, came back, said, hey, our team, our team has 62 and they only have 58. And the quarter was over. She went in the game and did completely fine. So if you want to distract yourself, read something on the wall, check your email on your phone, whatever it may be, just to kind of float with this until it passes. So the E is encourage. Stay positive. Don't let the negative thoughts creep in. Again, we'll be talking a lot about that next session, but just keep reminding yourself, millions of people deal with it. Not going to hurt me, not going to kill me. I'm not going to swat at it. And, if you don't invite it, or if you don't try and kick it out of the house and start a fight with it, it's just not going to stick around. And then my favorite word there, the float. So just notice the symptoms. Like, honestly, I think better than distracting yourself is just noticing those changes. Remember, it's just like riding a roller coaster. And I mean, even in your imagination, imagine yourself on a roller coaster, and you're going to see those feelings and symptoms are so similar. And the moment you don't care about them, they don't stay around. And, hundreds of people that I've worked with say like, this works. Research shows that it works. And so one other technique that you could try, this is mainly I've seen work with the guys, but girls can try as well. I call it the Rocky Balboa method. So when you start to feel those symptoms and you start to feel dizzy, or maybe you feel like your heart rate's going up and those sort of things, it's almost like embracing it and inviting it and saying like, man, you think that's dizzy? Let me see how dizzy you can actually make me. I don't care. I want to see what you got. Bring it on. Or, I can feel my heart rate rising. Like, bring it on. Like, let me see what you can do. I'm not afraid of you. Like, I'm not going to fight you. I'm inviting you. Come do what you're going to do. And the moment where you try and like make those symptoms worse, like anxiety has no power. It loses what it's trying to do to you. And just like the bee, it's just going to float and fly away. So number 5 is to learn to keep your anxiety low. So if you think of your anxiety on a scale of 1 to 10, like shoot to walk around at a 2. Unfortunately, we're not going to all be 0s or 1s just because of that sinful fallen world. But I can't tell you how many people I've worked with that'll say something like, if my anxiety could just be like a 5.5, I'd be okay, because I can work with that, I can function with that, do things with my kids. But the problem with that, and I don't remember if we talked about this in session 1, so sorry if I'm repeating this, but the problem with that is, again, all of us face stressors. So somebody bumps into your car in the parking lot, and so it comes up and it's going to raise your anxiety 3 points. If you're at a 5.5 already, that's going to send you over the edge. Where if you get yourself down at a 2 and something happens that raises you up 3, like you're still okay, you can still function. So just keep that low. And the way you keep it low is using the skills that you're going to learn, the breathing skills. Definitely next session is self-talk. What you just learned here with embracing and floating with some of these feelings and not feeding into them and swatting at the bee, and using that positive self-talk. So looking back, you have that stressful life event. You get externally generated anxiety, and that's justified because we all face anxiety and bad things that happen. You get those chemical releases, you get those body symptoms. And again, you got those two forks in the road. You can feed into it. You can panic about your panic and just allow it and try and like fight it off. And like I said, that's just inviting it to get worse and feel better, or make it come even stronger. The path that you want to take, again, is the self-talk. Not going to hurt me, not going to kill me. I'm just going to float with it. I'm not going to swat at the bee. And honestly, when you start to do this, some of you are never going to have a panic attack again. Some of you are going to have fewer panic attacks, and the body symptoms are going to be a lot less, and the panic episode is going to last a shorter amount of time. And as you build up over the next 3-4 weeks, so some of you will never have a panic attack again. Some of you a month from now won't be having any more panic attacks. And I know you can I know you all can do this and not allow yourself to panic about your panic. And the moment that you don't pull through that Chinese finger trap or swat at the bee, it's just going to go away. All right. So for the homework this time, number one, when you feel anxious or depressed this week, just float with it. Don't let it bother you. It's okay. Number two is to try 1 or 2 things this week that may cause you some symptoms. So maybe I've had people afraid of heights that they'll just go up to the attic and stick their head out the window. If you have some social anxiety, just asking, let's say go to the grocery store, and when you check out, just ask the cashier how her day's going. You're not looking for something to like set you over the edge. You're looking for something this week to just produce a little bit of anxiety where you can just notice it, you can just float with it and not feed into it as you've been doing in the past. So there's a place you can write down 2 things if you can think of something things that may produce just a little bit of anxiety for you, just so you can like test out what I'm telling you. Definitely keep using the deep breathing daily. And then number 4, this is going to be important. This is trying to help you prevent like the crash that tends to come a little bit later in the program. So I want you to exercise at least 20 minutes for at least 3 days this week. Because as we go on, we're going to be talking about diet and exercise. And some of you who haven't exercised in months, maybe even years, I don't want that session to hit you really, really hard. So get out and for some of you, that's just walking around the block. Maybe walking around your house for 20 minutes up and down the steps. For other you that already exercise and stuff, like keep it up. And again, we're trying to prevent the crash from happening and like keep you moving in a positive direction. So again, next session, I can't wait to talk to you about that. It's my favorite one. And I'll see you then, and have a great week, and stay up with this homework. Okay. We'll see you soon.